So I want to link back to, Heather, your study at PwC about millennials in the workplace. Interesting points there. George, Mark, do you want to pipe up and have anything to add to Heather's comments? And then I want to circle back on a couple of ideas.
Yeah, I would just jump in and say, I was on the point about just the difference in how they process information or having information at their fingertips. This is probably the first generation that has completely built their own media environment around them, right? And I know a lot of us grew up with, even if you go, back to say, baby boomer age, you grow up with 3, maybe 4 local channels, 3 or 4 radio stations that you can get pretty well, and 2 local newspapers, and that was your access to information. You got that information, from a news standpoint, once or twice a day. You've got these groups of people who have, they read 4 or 5 bloggers that we've probably never heard of, exclusively. They have their own networks of people on Twitter that they follow who give them a completely different perspective of information, or maybe even complement the things that they read online. And then, they just use television and some of the tools that we are used to using, like print media and things of that nature, just for entertainment specifically. So, when you look at that paradigm, you've got people who you can't assume anything about. You can't assume where they're coming from or how they're going to be motivated from any way, shape, or form, right? You can't assume that they've heard, or you can't assume there's going to be good water cooler talk, right? There used to be a point where you could come in the morning at work and everybody saw 60 Minutes the night before. It doesn't happen anymore, right? You may see some people that come in and say, did you see what was trending on Twitter earlier? And then you got to run back to your phone or your desktop and try to enter that conversation. So I completely agree with that point. It's really changed the way I deal with some of the very young millennials on my team, and going to another point about the promotions and how to deal with that. You just create things for them to manage, clusters of things for them to manage. So I can't just promote you and give you more money every time. And it's funny because that's our perspective, right? We grew up in a private sector culture, in a culture where it was about moving up the hierarchy of an organization and finding ways to enhance our financial gain, right? And I think they've grown up in a culture where it's how can I change the culture where I am to make it more inviting to other people like me. And the more access you give them, the better off that organization's going to be.